Hello, welcome back. It's another Team Talks edition. The difference is this one is live, and we are very much looking forward to talking to Alec Marshall, the assistant manager of Kings Lynn Town, a club that I know reasonably well from my time within the Women's Football League. So we are about to get ourselves into it. Let's get straight in. Hello, everyone. It is a delight to be here with you. Usually, when you're coming on here, we've got like 6 people sat around here. This isn't what it is tonight. Tonight is the team talk, and we are in with Alec Marshall, who is the assistant manager, as I said, of Kings Lynn Town. Alec, how are you, sir? You okay?
Yeah, very well, Barry. Thank you. How are you?
Yes, I am good. Thank you very much. I'm pleased that we've managed to get you on because we mentioned you a few times on this channel. Myself personally, because I've been absolutely taken in by the story of Kings Lynn this season. I think, I've said it to you personally and privately as well, but I just find the whole story behind everything that's happened with Kings Lynn this season and the effort that's gone into it to be absolutely amazing. But before we get into what it was like for you and the girls, let's find out a little bit more about you yourself. So perhaps you tell us a little bit about your footballing journey, how you got into football in the first place, and then specifically how it was you managed to get into women's football.
Yeah, so every young lad, loved football. Grew up. I was actually brought up a Manchester United fan. Then I kind of saw the light, with all of the better words. Then was a season ticket holder at Norwich City Football Club until Dean Smith was appointed, and that's another matter. Decided to hand back my season ticket. Just really wasn't enjoying the football. Then started to, stick and follow the roots of Kings Lynn Town. Kings Lynn literally from me is 10 minutes up the road. But playing wise, I was always one of those players that never had a fixed position. The manager would go, "Oh yeah, just do a role at centre back, just do a role at left back." Anywhere sort of wherever he needed me, I was there. Always won that little trophy of manager's player and most improved player. Always the sympathetic sort of trophies that they call them. And then our goalkeeper then left to go and play another sport. My father used to play football professionally and said to me, "Let's train you up to be a goalkeeper." So from the age of about under 10s to under 16s, took a little step into adult football. I was a goalkeeper. So the love for football's always been there. The love for watching it has always been there. So, for me, it's always been, a part of my life and a massive part of my life, really. And then ladies football wise, like I said, started following Kings Lynn Town. Started to see a few of the players, a few of the female lady players at the male games. Started conversations with a few of them, and it came to a couple of the players. It was when the ladies were playing Billericay in the FA Cup. First round proper, the first ever time that Kings had ever got there, and they said, "Oh, do you mind coming along with us?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, see, I've got a good day out. I'll come on the bus." They had a coach that went there, so I hopped on the bus, and they gave me their phones and said, "Oh, can you take some photos and videos so we can make TikToks?" And that literally, really, is my step into ladies football. Got on the bus, took some videos and photos of the players getting on and off the bus at the game. The scoreline probably was what we was expecting, but when you come against a good opposition like that, then you're going to get scorelines like that. So, and then it just kind of got into a bit of you could come along to train in a bit, and then started watching more matches, and then I then ended up being in the dugout it came to there was 2 manager changes when I then stepped into Kings and Ladies. At the time when I first stepped in, it was Kevin Smith in charge. He then resigned, and then Michael and Josh, or JP as everyone knows him, came in. Found myself in the dugout again, and then Between the two seasons, Michael and JP then left. A new manager was appointed, and I was asked whether I would take up the role as assistant manager. So that's where last season, the season just gone, started as me as assistant manager.
Which brings us round really quite perfectly, because you mentioned starting off as the assistant manager. It wasn't the easiest of starts, I think it's fair to say, it wasn't the easiest of seasons, to be fair, but certainly as far as the start goes, a really tough one, a 12-0 loss to Wroxham at home. By the time the fourth game had come round, only the one goal scored and 33 conceded. And at this point, I think that was when you started to see maybe some of your senior players who maybe dropped out, weren't able to continue for the season. And it just sort of became a bit of a tricky moment for you. How was it that you eventually stepped into the role as manager at Kings Lynn?
Well, yeah, I was, under Grant, who started the season off. There was a little bit of unrest between the two seasons, between some players on what was actually happening with the team. There was a lot of outside noise of Kings Lynn are going to fold X, Y, Z, and a lot of the senior players wanted that guarantee of first team football. And with the uncertainty, they couldn't kind of guarantee that it would carry on. Hence why senior players left elsewhere to explore avenues to get back to the enjoyment of playing football because of this uncertainty. And it was one Wednesday afternoon I picked the phone up and spoke to Grant about a couple of problems and a couple of questions I had for him. And at that point, it was 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. He told me he'd then handed in his resignation to the club. And then by 7:30 that night, I had the chairman, Stephen Cleave, on the phone, asking whether I'd take charge till the end of the season. And then we'd reassess kind of at the end of the season on where to go. And from my point of view, that's always been a lifelong dream of mine, to be a football manager. So at 22 years old, which I am, to have a phone call from Kings Lynn Town's chairman straight away is a bit of a bit of a speechless moment. And then I don't think I could have said yes quick enough until I then kind of came off the phone and realised actually at the time of me saying yes, I believe we only had about 13 players signed on, which was we had loads of players signed on, but actually only 13 that were kind of there to stay. I think that afternoon 4 more players left, and then the Thursday that followed was another 3 players that left. So literally, I only had 13 players to work with. So yeah, I then had a conversation with Stephen again on the Thursday. It then got made public on the Thursday. And I said, look, I can't field a squad for this weekend. We was meant to be playing away at Dunstable. We had to unfortunately postpone the fixture because I literally had 7 players to go to Dunstable with. And then came the week from madness, or hell as some people call it. Average screen time on my phone was, I think, about 11 hours a day. Something stupid. Literally constant on the phone to people who I knew played football. People who came to pre-season who didn't make the cut, I was back on the phone to them saying, look, this is a different manager now, this is a different opportunity. And within a week, I managed to sign another 12 players on. And somewhat of a miracle, my first game in charge was Fakenham Town in the FA Cup, at home, at the Walks. For me, Fakenham, all my mum and dad's kind of family come from that way. My cousins, my aunties, my uncles, my grandparents all live out Fakenham way. I have a couple of connections with the Fakenham squad as well. So for me, first game in FA Cup at the Walks against Fakenham, I felt a bit of pressure. And constantly, it was like Saturday morning, Steve rang me up and said, look, have we got a squad for tomorrow? And I said, we've got 14. And for me, that was first victory of the season, was actually fielding 11 plus 3 substitutes, which one of those was Marie, who's a coach of ours. She actually signed on at, I believe she's 42 years old, signed on because she didn't want to see the team fold, and stepped on the field of play and helped us out. We fell to a 5-2 defeat, but we had 3 players who I'd never seen before, never trained with us before. They came straight off the train from London. literally walked in the change room at 12:30, first time I met him, stepped on the field of play, and I thought we'd done pretty well to, get a couple of goals. You could clearly see the style I tried to implement, having 2 training sessions with the ladies to then go into an FA Cup game like that against Fakenham, who, don't get me wrong, are a solid outfit. They've played together, some of them girls, for 4 or 5, 6 seasons. They're not an inexperienced side. So to get a couple of goals and to kind of turn the play at times against a side like Fakenham was pretty pleasing for me. And having that, you've probably all seen it, is the Big Owl We Trust banner. At full time, that was definitely an emotional moment, walking back towards the main stand, applauding the fans, which I think is probably up there with the record we have had of attendances at the walks for the ladies' game. Definitely was a tear to the eye when I saw that banner kind of draped over the stands. To have that support chucked straight in the deep end, sort of thing. My hard work kind of paid off.
No, absolutely. And it shows that it's paying off. You've got some people already coming in, such as Nathan here, saying that he's proud of you. And of course, Ryan talking there about Marie, saying age is just a number. I'm 42 and I couldn't imagine signing for any football club and having a run about. So fair play to her for doing that one. And I'm pleased that you mentioned the FA Cup, because obviously that was, like you say, your first game in charge. It did end up being a 5-2 defeat for you, but goals from Oksana Imanlieva and Alicia Juby were 2 good moments for you, I would say. But as you said, you finally got yourself into a position where you could get some players in. You'd got some numbers in, some people that were willing to turn out, but still, obviously, the results didn't improve to begin with. You had your tough results. You had to suffer the heaviest defeat, obviously, against Haringey, and then Real Bedford. I mean, we've all been smashed by Bedford, to be fair. They were an absolute train this season. But then you did get the 1-0 defeat at St Albans, and also a 0-0 against Dunstable as well. Were they results which made you feel like maybe there was shoots of recovery there within the squad? Or did you really, even at that point, realise how difficult it was going to be for you?
Talk about chucking straight in the deep end, like you said, Haringey away, Bedford away. We had some real tough fixtures that we were straight into. Haringey, I remember correctly, was about 28 degrees. We had 1 sub, and Haringey being Haringey, a relentless side. And we were suffering with injuries because, like I said, a lot of these ladies that I signed I haven't played for 4 or 5 years, so were so rusty, one of the better words, that their muscles straight away weren't used to the intensity of Tier 5 football. Bearing in mind, this is, no kind of small step. This is massive. You look at some of the sides, like you said, Bedford, just been crowned champions. You like see yourself, Stevenage, Luton. There's some big names in that league. Wroxham as well. And like you said, we then kind of regrouped, trained every week. We all knew it was going to be a tough ask, and a lot of the ladies within my team will tell you that, if I praise, I praise. If I'm not happy, I will criticise. And we knew that Haringey and Bedford straight in was going to be a tough ask. But we still had that point of we fielded the side, because at the point in September was are we going to fold? That was the main question. And then, like you said, we went away to St Albans, very strong squad. To be fair, it was 0-0 at half time, if I remember correctly. They scored second half. And then the last 10 minutes, I think we hit the crossbar and we hit the post. So quite easily, we could have walked away with 3 points there. But, it just proved that actually what I'd done and what the team had done and what we'd done as a collective was actually working. And actually, as together as one, we actually looked a good outfit. Because, St Albans at the time were picking up a few results as well. And then we had the big kind of game at home against Dunstable, which for me was pleasing to finally just get a single point on the board, from some of these girls that never played women's football before. 16, literally, I think, prime example was Maya Parker in the squad. She didn't turn 16 until December. And literally, as soon as she turned 16 in December, straight in playing Tier 5 football, which is just, you can't ask any more of the ladies going out there to, every week put on a shirt, go out there and play. No matter their age, no matter their ability, everyone still went out there week on week, even to like the final game of the season we just had. We still believed that we could go get a result.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely the facts of what I've seen of your season. You mentioned, of course, playing Fakenham in the FA Cup. You also had the joy of playing them once again a little bit later on in the season as you went into the League Plate, which obviously Wormley have just gone on to win this weekend. But again, 2 goals scored, unfortunately 3 conceded, but again, a tighter affair than the first one. Katie Ward and Holly Williams scoring there. You also went into the County Cup, a tricky game for you there as well. And I think, as William says here, it's a question that I'd written down that I wanted to ask you. How do you, again, first managerial job, as you mentioned, something that you really wanted to do, but how do you maintain team morale when you are getting what were really, really quite heavy results against you? Because that was certainly something that sitting from the sidelines myself looking at, I just ordinarily at this level and below, you would look at these teams that were having these sort of results, and as you said, they just go, they just leave the league. The only other team I can think of that have had such a tricky season as you was Hounslow, being in a situation where they just don't seem to be picking up points, and it's hard. It's hard to play football and not be winning games because you want the morale, you want the joy that comes from that, and that's not something that you've managed to feel this season. So how do you maintain that morale, especially against youngsters who are notoriously, impatient when it comes to these sort of things? How have you managed to do that?
Yeah, everyone, I think this is the most asked question that I've had is how we kept going. For me, looking outside in from when I first started, it was people will always give you, no matter where they are, football, work-wise, anything. If they're enjoying something, they will continue to do it. They will give you everything. And that was one thing at the beginning of the season, which a few of the players addressed and alerted and, said that they weren't enjoying it. So, I remember my first training session in, I think I made the ladies do, I think it was like 2 or 3 suicide runs. And, there was that intensity. But then afterwards, we had like a attackers v defenders kind of shootout, had that competitive nature, but where everyone can just have a laugh as well. So it's having that enjoyment, but also learning at the same time as well. And when you've got players in the squad 16, 17, 18 years old, if they're not enjoying it, they lose interest, they don't give you it all. If they don't give you it all of a sudden they're plumbing. So you have to keep that interest, you have to keep, keep the morale up as much as you can. And I think the thing I repeated to the ladies majority of last season was the way the season started was no fault of our own who was in that change rooms. Because we literally had 3 players from last season still with us. All the rest of the players were brand new. And that situation for me coming in September to some of the ladies coming in September as well, we was in that situation for no fault of our own. We were kind of put there with one of the better words, and we had to try and find a way out. And I said to them week on week, we're in this situation. We are putting on the shirt. We are still going out there playing football. And it's not like we're a poor side. Like you said, that Fakenham game, we replayed them again. When we play teams at a level which our team is currently at, we can compete. We can play well. That Fakenham game, we were 1-0 down at half time. I tweaked the formation a little bit at half time. We then went out and conceded a second one. And I just thought, oh, have I done right here? Straight away, next thing you know, we've then scored a couple of goals in quite quick succession. Drawn the game to 2-2. Really dominated the play, and the Fakenham striker, Chloe, her name is, just broke through one-on-one and scored. So on another day, we could have quite comfortably won the game. But like I said, keeping morale up is something that, if you know me, a couple of times I've spoke to you, Barry, and any of the players will tell you, or anyone who's been around the team, is, I like to have a good laugh and a joke. I'm not a serious guy, but when it comes to it, I am a serious guy. So, there's a few players that I can have a good bit of banter with. We can bounce back and forth off. And it does just bounce off some of the team members as well. And all of a sudden, within a matter of minutes, you're all kind of laughing. Even when, like Bedford, for example. When we went away to Bedford, we just lost against Haringey. We just got on and lost against Bedford. I walked in the change rooms at full time, and they're singing and dancing with the speaker. And I just think, what's going on here? You've just conceded 27 goals in 2 games, and you're singing and dancing. And I think towards the back end of the season, they kind of realised actually, yes, the results were poor, and things weren't going our way, but they still enjoyed the season. Were one of the better words. Yes, we have to take this seriously. Yes, results didn't go our way, and yes, we did get relegated in the end. And a lot of them players, took that to heart. And that getaway game at Bowers. We travelled all that way with, I think we had 11, 12 players. And there was a few players, including myself, tears at full time, because it's not until it actually happens that it just kind of strikes you that, wow, like all this kind of hard work hasn't just gone to waste. But even that game itself and the games that followed afterwards, we still went out there and we still fought and we still put a shirt on. And you look at the game against Harrogate, the second to last game against Harrogate, we'd just been beaten 13-0 away at home, and at home we've only lost 4-2. It's just, the morale within the camp hasn't dropped one bit. The belief in the camp hasn't dropped one bit. Everyone wanted the same thing. Everyone wanted that win. Because we knew that if we got that win on the board, it would show some recognition to our name. But what we've actually realised now, being in the situation we are now, is actually us surviving this season and getting the odd results here and there, like the 0-0, the 1-0 loss, the 4-2 at home against Haringey. Yes, they're not great results, but it kind of has put everything into context of what we tried to achieve. And I think it just shows the actual the tightness of the squad, the strength of this squad, the mental strength of this squad to go out week in, week out. It's just, I've never ever seen it before. And for me, me and April are now kind of sitting down with April now in charge and looking at the squad, and there's we kind of got a list of paper, and it's like, right, how do we improve on this squad? So, it's now kind of a challenge for us to pick and choose now of what do we need to do.
No, absolutely. And I think you brought up the Bowers game. That was, for me, that was just a straw that broke the camel's back in terms of just admiration for what the girls had managed to achieve. You say Bowers and Pitsea, it's a 220-mile round trip. Now, I can think of happier moments to go and sit in a coach for. You'd almost liken it to potentially being on like death row or something like that, because you know what's coming, but you've still got to go for it. And it was sadly just a case of waiting, as you said, for the day it was confirmed and trying to hold off as much as you could. What can you say about your girls this season for the fact that even 12 of them, you said there was only one game that you couldn't fulfill the fixture for, and that was just before you took over. So obviously there was always going to be that sort of problem. The fact that you, as a manager, have managed to get the morale up, keep them coming back week after week, enjoying their football, still going out there and playing, competing, working hard, trying to improve game after game, and doing that, and still getting a number of girls who felt that they were able to step onto a coach, to travel 110 miles to Essex, to go and play Bowers and Pitsea. Again, not the easiest place to go and play your football. They're a good football inside. And then still know they've got to come back another 110 miles with the knowledge that that's their journey in the ERWFL Premier over. What can you say about your girls that have stuck with you, that have believed in you throughout this season?
You've probably seen it all on socials and after every game. I have nothing but praise for the team, because I know I gave everything. I know that they gave everything. And if there was any chance, I just see the message there from Aaron come up there. I know that we gave everything. And if there was any chance of us getting a result or surviving that division, then I gave us every chance of doing that, and the girls gave themselves the chance of doing that. You know what? It's quite easy for me to take all the plaudits, but there's so many more people to kind of include in this. Chairman for giving me the chance. You know, the people in the background, Norman, Sarah, Zoe, Jane, Sarah Jackson as well, to even like April, coming on as assistant manager, Doug and Marie, who have been there from the start for me, helping out coaching wise. There's so many, I hate naming names because I always forget people, but there's so many people in the background that actually made the season what it was. And I just have nothing but praise for them because, like you said, the Bowers game, I specifically didn't mention anything about, we don't get a result today, we're down. It wasn't until, you've probably seen the image. There was an image of them all sitting on the floor, and I then told them there and then, I said, look, unfortunately, this has meant that we are now relegated. And at that point, there was a couple of players in tears, and at that point, I kind of welled up myself a bit because you've kind of committed this season to try and make something happen, and then all of a sudden it's kind of hit you and gone, we can't actually make this happen now. But then we kind of gave ourselves a bit of freedom in the sense of we then had, I think it was 4 games after the Bowers one, that we could actually then go and experiment a bit, try out and try different formations, try players in different positions as well. We had that kind of freedom then to, no pressure on us at all then. We can go out, we can try new things and try and hopefully build for next season. And, from that Bowers game, it has been now trying to build for next season. But, for the squad itself, I'm speechless as well. I think many people are, that we actually made it to the last game. Even, it just shows you how resilient we were, that Luton at home last game of the season, I had a player call off Saturday night, which left us at 10 players. We still went outfield on a squad, 10v11 against Luton. We suffered a bit of an injury in the game, with him down 9v11 against Luton at home. And, as well as I do, Luton are a very, very good side. You look at the FA Cup run they went on, for example. They still gave Brighton a good game. The scoreline was 6-0 to Brighton, but they still pushed Brighton to, the line. And to even at the last game, to have the fans there, cheering and supporting us on, we just come back of a, 14-0 loss at home. Yet, there's still people smiling, there's still people, happy. And don't get me wrong, it was gutting because that's not how we wanted to finish the season. But like I said, we're in this at no fault of our own. And like I said, I just have nothing but praise for everyone involved in the season that's just happened because they definitely helped me out a lot. They definitely helped out themselves, and definitely has got people talking about Kings Lynn again.
No, absolutely. And as Peter says here, don't cry till it's over, smile because it happened in How We Trust. And we talk about them. Delighted to see. We've got one of the players has popped in here in Jess Napper saying we love you out, and of course calling you my G, which is, I think, slang for pretty cool. So there we go. Listen, it was a really tough season. We've mentioned that already. And at the end, it was 21 points that you would have needed to have caught up the likes of St Albans. It's been a really interesting league, watching it from start to finish. Real Bedford went on a ridiculous run of about 15 games without losing, 100% record. They looked like they were going to win the league from the start, to be honest with you. But if there's one thing that's been shown throughout our league, it's that any team can beat any other team on their day. They've all shown that there is a bit of tightness there. But obviously, Real Bedford have been in the news. It was all over the BBC not so long ago. They've garnered some investment from overseas in America as well. And there is money starting to come into the game. Now, that there are teams this season that have not been receiving payment. I'm not going to ask you guys as to whether or not you've been paying your players or not, because they're very up and down with that. But I do want to ask you if you feel like you're starting to see now, because we know that WSL is paid, the Championship is mostly paid now, the money's starting to trickle in. Do you think here, even at Tier 5, which is a very regionalised section of the football pyramid, that we're starting to see the money drop into these leagues, and if therefore that's going to make a big difference? Because there is a clear disparity. Bedford had the vast majority of the money this season, and they'll be the ones going off into the WNL this season, actually next season. So where do you sort of your thoughts stand on the money in the game at the moment?
Yeah, yeah. You look at the quality of the team Bedford have got, and the money does get you quality. But one thing money doesn't do is buy you happiness. Which, yes, as a team, the players are paid within our team, and I think that comes from the chairman. Straight from the season off, he wanted to get more inclusive and start to get rid of these dividers. Which is something which has happened. You look at the women in the Euros. They wanted the bonuses from the FA, etc. They wanted to break down them barriers. And even for the chairman to still pay players with the results that we had just shows how much kind of he believed in it and how much he sticking to his guns. He hasn't just kind of gone, no, you haven't won a game all season, I'm pulling kind of all the money. Don't get me wrong, money does get you good players, and you look at teams, there's even teams lower than us that are paying players, which I've been hearing about, which I'm not going to name names, but you look at the sides who are below us and who are paying the players and bringing in players for the money, they're getting results. And you can always have that attraction of, players, I'm going to go and earn some money here sort of thing and go across. But then you start to get players for coming to you for the wrong reasons. And that's when you can kind of get a divide within the squad of, she's on X amount of money, she's on X amount of money, I want to be earning that, why aren't I earning that? So, yes, I'm all for, getting more money in the game. Tier 5 for me, I think, is kind of the level in which money kind of has to start to come into the equation, because, like you said, how tight the league is, the quality of the teams within that division as well. I don't think there's any reason why there can't be any money brought into it. Even at a small scale level, just a little something towards it. Like this season for Kings Lynn is the first season that the players have actually paid, haven't actually had to pay anything. Even the signing on fees, nothing. Everything's been covered. So for them, they've turned up, they've trained, they've played, and walked away with a little bit of money as well. So the equality side of things and the barriers within the sport has now started to break down. And like I said, money is brilliant because you can bring in better players, you can bring in that quality. But on the other hand, you can then start to get those divides as well. So I think it's kind of trying to balance it out and finding the balance of who to bring in, what money you're spending, and you're kind of keeping it fair with one of the better words, because at the end of the day, everyone's still stepping out there 90 minutes, and kicking the same football. So find the fairness, but I'm a big believer in if you are a better player, you earn more money. it's like a job. If you're better at the job, you're going to naturally earn more money. If you're not as good as that job, you're going to earn money, but not as much.
No, absolutely fair points all. Nathan's in. A lot of love for you in the chat here, Alec. Alec's dedication to the club is what money can't buy. And absolutely, I think you find it at our level again. It is often that you find these teams with people that are just dedicated to their clubs, and it's a wonderful thing to see. William did have another question. I'm going to throw that one in before I come down to my last two. And what he's put in here is he's gone specifically with what tactics did you use this season, which obviously we're not necessarily going to expect you to unveil because you've got a whole new season to look forward to. But what I will ask you based on that is, are you happy with the tactics that you've tried to employ this season? Do you feel like when you walked away from games, were you thinking there was things you perhaps could have done differently? And as a result, do you think that you've become a better manager over the course of the season with what you've learned as well?
Yeah, I think I don't know if you remember us coming to yours at Stevenage. I walked off after 42 minutes down the tunnel because I was not happy at all. Me and April had spent, I think it was 3 hours the night before, doing tactic sheets on how to defend corners each side, throw-ins each side, goal kicks each side, everything, throw-ins, a lot, you name it, we done a tactic sheet for it. And I popped it in the group chat so everyone could read it. I put it in the changing rooms, and the first half against you guys, I was watching it, I was thinking, have they actually read this? Hence the reason I kind of walked off in the 42nd minute and kind of waited for him in the change rooms and addressed a few problems there. And then literally only came out second half and only conceded one goal. So it's clearly something went right at half time. But for me, tactics wise, we kind of had to find a formation and a style that people were comfortable with and are used to, because what I found was the tactics and the formation which I came into, which was implemented from previous management, was too complicated. And when you've got players who probably aren't at the level which we need to play at, they need to understand what they need to do. So keep it simple, keep it basic, which I just went straight in at 4-4-2. Everyone knows it. It's a formation. It's played from youth football all the way through to the Premier League. It's a very simple formation. People know their roles and responsibilities. And we have changed that formation a couple of times. We've gone for a 4-2-3-1. We've gone to 4-3-3. But they're all very versatile within one another. 4-4-2 can go to a 4-5-1, can go to a 4-3-3, can go to a 4-2-4. It's a formation which you can just disperse so much out of just one basic formation. For me, there was a couple of games which me and April kind of sat down with at the end and gone, we probably could have done this, we probably could have done that. But for me, last season, I thought we played the tactics right. I thought we had the formations right. Everything was there. We would just put kind of a little fish in a big pond. So for this coming season, it is now going to be on kind of April's tactics and style, which probably will be very similar to myself, because April had a massive input in the analysis, the tactics side of it as well. So I can't see there being much change, but that's up for kind of April and not me. So.
It's very, you brought April up, and obviously April is someone who has played this season as well. Now, obviously, when we first started to advertise this, we advertised you as the manager, which of course you have been for the whole season. But we did notice that it has been put out there that you've chosen to step down. What can you tell us about that? And also, what can you tell us about April as she moves into her career as the manager of Kings Lynn?
So from me being me, I don't want to quit something that I started. I'm quite determined. Like you've seen last season, very determined to kind of finish what I started. And as the season came to a close, I kind of reassessed everything, from me personally in my personal life to my social life to kind of everything in and around me. I'm 22 years old, working Monday to Friday, 8 till 5. So trying to manage a football team on top of that, to try and get everything behind the scenes. People don't see that side of football management. I never expected it myself. This side of football management. Doing sort of like interviews like this, to going out to schools, meeting kids at schools, trying to sign players, organise pre-season friendlies, to distributing the wages out to the ladies. There's so much more involved in just turn up to training, doing a session, turn up on a Sunday, take a game. There's so much more. You have to go with the players one to one. There's some players which need more attention than others. So you kind of managing the team as well. And it come towards the end of the season, which I kind of, we had a bit of a meeting the other night, and I kind of stepped down from my role as manager, because I think physically and mentally I'm probably not in the kind of the best place that I've ever been in, because I've kind of dedicated so much time and effort into this. I think physically, my physical health, I'm now starting to get back into running, but I could do 5k in around about 29-30 minutes, where now I'm 5k at about 39-40 minutes. So straight away, physically, I'm not as physically fit as I am, and mentally, I've always kind of had a struggle with mental health. Not too many years ago, was diagnosed with having a bit of anxiety and depression, and I can started to see that mentally I wasn't probably in the best place that I could possibly be in. Which I look back at it now, and I'm working Monday to Friday 8 till 5, so football stuff had to either happen before 8 in the morning or after 5 at night. And then some nights you're there at 10:30, 11 o'clock, tapping away on a keyboard. You're waking up at 6 o'clock to get ready for work, and physically and mentally exhausting is one of the better words. And the club, I think, wanted a little bit of a change as well. They didn't want to push me out. They just wanted a change, a little bit of a refresh. And we kind of come to the agreement of me stepping down. But then April was then kind of offered the role, and April said, "Look, I'm happy to, only if Alec stays with me." So then we sat down at the meeting table and was like, "Okay, we'll swap roles." And I was like, "Well, okay, I'm happy with that sort of thing." And then, like I said, took a bit of a weight off my shoulders. I can now start to go out in the evenings, start to exercise. I can now start to kind of switch off a bit earlier, and I can now kind of prepare myself ready for this season. And this season was always kind of meant to be for me working alongside someone anyway. So and then all of a sudden September came and I'm handed the manager role, which is not what I wanted, but everything fell into place for that to happen. So I wasn't going to say no to it, because I'm not a guy who kind of says no or quits at anything. But the last thing I wanted to do was quit from this. But having to sat down and reassess everything was kind of an eye-opening thing for me, that actually I'm not probably the best version of myself, and if I carried on in the way I was going, there was no chance that I'd be able to give kind of the commitment and the effort on which I gave last season. So hence the reason the role change. For me, April was kind of the candidate that, if I was to step down completely and say, this is the person I want to take it, is her. She's been a breath of fresh air ever since she's come in. She's been up to the WSL, done a little bit in the WSL behind the scenes, so has had a bit of experience there. She's got a friend who plays for Rugby Borough, who is someone that I've actually now got quite friendly with, and me and April very often will go across to the Midlands and go and watch the games. April knows her stuff, knows the tactics, knows how to improve players. We've got some players in the squad which previous management said that weren't good enough to be around, who are now first on the team sheet. And actually, people who have seen us at the beginning to now have gone, who is this player? And it's just dedication from April. Because I worked Monday to Friday, she's doing extra one-to-one sessions with players who want it during the day, in the week, working hard with them, and all of a sudden they're now enjoying it. And a couple of players said to me, "Look, I would have stepped away, but with the effort that you and April are putting in, I'm starting to fall back in love with football." But yeah, April for me is, has been a breath of fresh air for me. It got to a point where I was planning training sessions before April came in, and I was thinking, what are we going to do now? I've got another session to do. I've got a 2-hour window. What we're going to do? Where April's coming and going, right, we can do X, Y, and Z. Bang, bang, bang. We can take the session. And having the extra coach there as well on top of Doug and Marie with April means that we can segregate the group off into little segments. So defenders could go off, attackers could go off, goalkeepers could go off. So they give us an extra dimension. But, for me, I think, us as a side, we are still going to be very competitive next season. Like I said, April was, quite friendly on the face of it, but, when she doesn't want to be, it's kind of duck your head and hide mode.
Sounds like just the sort of person you would need. My final question for you really is less of a question, if we're honest, and more of a chance for you to plug something, because whilst doing our research on yourself and obviously the club, I noticed that you'd had the chance to actually play at the Walks, and you're talking about a 40-minute 5K, but you managed to don the kit as well to get out there and play some football, and you did that in aid of the 856 Foundation. And I just thought that as we're doing this, it would be a nice chance for you to throw that out there, explain what the 856 Foundation is, and maybe see if there's anybody out there that might want to donate to anything like that if they need to. But tell us a bit more about why it was you got involved in that.
Yeah, so something that was brought to my attention halfway through the season, there was a charity match going to be played at the Walks. And straight away, my eyes kind of lit up and thought, God, I've got a chance here to play at the Walks. Everyone's kind of wanted to do that. So straight away, as soon as I heard that they were trying to get a team together, I kind of put my name down straight away. And then when I heard that it was against the police, it was like, this could be quite interesting sort of thing. And then I understood the charity they were doing it for was for the 856. Now, anyone related to Kings Lynn, anyone from the Kings Lynn area, West Norfolk, will probably know a chap who sadly took his own life a few years ago, was Lee Cowan. A guy I knew myself personally, from being, my father used to play cricket with him, and I've kind of known him for years and years and years, and was never kind of a guy you'd probably the least, the guy you'd least expect to kind of, take his own life, because I literally saw him a week beforehand at one of the Kings Lynn men's games, bought me a beer. From myself having sort of struggles with, mental health, and that is not something that you can have always kind of pluck up the courage to kind of admit that actually you are struggling. And, Lee, unfortunately did take his own life, and being the big diehard Kings Lynn fan Lee was, there was a group of them, which they did call themselves the 856. Now, that was because every away game kind of Lynn went on, it was the 856 train out of Kings Lynn that they got. That's why they called themselves the 856, and that is why the charity itself is called 856. Now, I'd done a half marathon 2 years ago in aid of them. I don't think I'd be able to do much of it now, sort of thing. But it's been a charity which I've been very interested in and very determined to raise a lot of money for ever since it's been set up. And the charity is just to raise awareness of male mental health, because you look at the numbers of how many men take their own lives per year. and how many don't actually get help and don't actually speak about it is pretty staggering. And it's something that, struggling myself is close to my heart. Also with Lee as well is very close to my heart. And I think, it is a time that, us blokes kind of need to, there's always this man up sort of thing, you're all right, you're male, sort of crack on with it. But actually, sometimes you just need to sit down and assess and say, actually, am I just blocking things out for the sake of it? Do I actually need to talk to someone? And, how I come around myself sort of thing was, I was literally just talking to a mate. We had banter back and forth, and all of a sudden he fired something at me, and I didn't reply. And he said, "Are you all right, Al?" And at that point, I was at breaking point. And it's a little something like that, which probably I could have realised a lot sooner that I was struggling. But yeah, I think blokes have kind of there's so much stigma around it now, and it's getting a lot more attention now to what it is, that people just there's no shame in opening up and saying you're struggling. There's no shame in saying that I don't feel myself. There's no shame in being upset. That there's too much stereotyping that blokes are always kind of the superiors. They don't cry, they don't suffer. You see all these like old films, this sort of old man up sort of thing, crack on, and you've got to take into consideration your life factors, everything that happens in your life, and the 856, they do so much work and free stuff, for blokes to go and do. They had a weekend away the other weekend. I mean, it was 10, 15 blokes went away for a weekend, all paid for themselves, just as a group of guys going out there, enjoying themselves. I've been on a few of their events. We had a bowling social night. You turned up, had a couple of games of bowling, a drink and a bit of food, and you're talking to blokes which probably you never met before. And by the end of the night, you're best pals. So it's kind of getting rid of the isolation out of everything, and just making sure people are aware that it's okay. And as their slogan says, it's time to talk.
Brilliant. I mean, fair play to you for coming out and mentioning that. As you say, it is okay to not be okay, and there's not enough people in the world that feel like they can open up and speak out to people. But certainly, as Nathan said earlier on, for you, you'll always have people by your side, Al, no matter what. And it's always good to have that support. And you'll be surprised, I think, people will find just how much support there is out there from your friends if you just open up and be honest with them, because they would much rather you are there with them, enjoying some time, as opposed to no longer, as you mentioned, being there. So if you guys out there who are watching feel like going to donate, feel free to go and find the 856, not the 856, the 856, and get some money to them, because it sounds like a very worthy cause. Alec, you've been superb. We slated you down for about 20 to 30 minutes. That's what we've been aiming for on these things. But you've been absolutely brilliant. You've bared your heart and soul in terms of what you've done in the season. All that remains for me to say to you is just congratulations. You did such a good job. You've been an inspiration, certainly to me, and to the people that I've been speaking to, you and the girls. And I think it's only right, as you mentioned earlier on, the fact that they played Haringey Borough. I just wanted to name some of the team, the people that have stuck it out to the end, people like Gabby Cobb, April Kitchen, Erica Meal, Libby Malersky, Jess Napper, Jessica May Napper, she's in here, Giovanna Oliveira Sales, Maya Parker, Kayla Ricks, Libby Scott, Chelsea Simper, Holly Williams, Georgie Archer, Marie Mill. I'm sure there's others that are going to be missed out, but that was the team sheet from there. All of these people that have still gone out there and just gone on to show just how important it is to just never give up, to show that resilience. And we talk about the Lionesses being role models in women's football. I would argue that the people that have played for Kings Lynn this season 100% are equal role models, because they have shown anyone could go out and play for England and enjoy that sort of level of it. But to go out there when you know that your back is against the wall week in, week out, just absolute inspiration. So congratulations. You've laid a great foundation. You've gone from being a club that could potentially be out of business entirely to having a chance next season. And whether you're in Division 1 North or in Division 1 South, hopefully it'll be North. And then that'll be the one that the Stevenage development lot are in, and we'll meet up again. And maybe it'll be my turn to buy you a beer at the bar, which you would absolutely deserve. For those who are watching, thanks again. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel, and it makes the boss smile, so that's always good. But other than that, like I say, all that's left to say is thank you very much for your time, Alec, and good luck for next season.
Yeah, thank you very much, Barry. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. See you next time on the Team Talk.